Hey guys, it's Dr. Cody Rall with Techforpsych. I just finished editing this video, which is a tutorial on the Muse Practitioners Guide. I take you page by page and offer you what I've learned, what I've seen, what my clients have experienced, and I hope you liked the video. It actually turned out into a two-part series because it was getting too long for one video. So I hope you enjoy. If you haven't already, hit the subscribe button and click the bell so you get notifications when I upload new content. And if you're interested in one-on-one coaching with me, go to www.techforpsych.com/coaching. Hope you enjoy. So I thought it would be fun to use a video to dive into the Muse Practitioners Guidebook, integrating Muse into practice. And I think that using this document as a topic of a discussion will be helpful on multiple fronts, both for people that are trying to incorporate Muse into their mental health practice as a clinician, and or people that are using Muse for themselves for self-development purposes. And as we go through this document, I'll give you my 2 cents about what I've seen with myself and with my clients in using the Muse in this way. Now, the Practitioners Guidebook comes from the Muse Professionals program, and this is a great program. The backbone of the program, in my opinion, is the Muse Connect, and that is the graphical interface platform that providers can use to track multiple clients that are using the Muse. And as you get into seeing how the Muse Connect is laid out, you have your clients and you can see when they meditated, how well they did on sessions, what their scores were. And that really gives you up-to-date information on how they're doing so that when you reconvene, you can talk about how their sessions went, talk about their scores, and offer advice on how they can improve their meditation practice. And I think it can be a really powerful thing. There's other cool parts of the Muse Professionals program. There's other documents like the one that I'm going to go through. There's marketing materials that you can use for your practice website to show that you're using the Muse and that you're using this data to help people improve their lives. And then they have this really great webinar program where they have experts come on and talk about using the Muse. Dr. Robert Reiner using the Muse with MindLift and Practice. I just put out a video on MindLift, and that was so educational listening to Dr. Reiner talk about using that. Adam Mortimer was great. He was talking about using Muse in professional coaching, self-improvement coaching practices. And they have Ariel Garten, the co-founder of Muse, coming up to talk about what they're up to. So a lot of really great resources for people that want to join the Muse Professionals program. Now, it is a $33 per month investment if you get the annual subscription. Definitely optimized for people that have a practice where they're incorporating Muse into treating multiple clients. Probably not useful for the individual user, but if you are a provider, definitely take a look at it. It's really cool. You get perks on hardware, Muse Connect, and other resources. You should definitely check it out. All right, so getting back to the Practitioners Guidebook, I'll scroll through here. I'm not going to belabor the table of contents because we're going to go through each little part in detail, so I won't cover that here. Going to mindfulness and practice. So this first page I think is important in establishing the baseline idea of why this is important. And Michael DeCare talked a lot about this, and I agree with him so much on why it is important to incorporate mindfulness into mental health treatment and self-development. So this page touches on the phenomena of mindfulness-based cognitive therapy and mindfulness-based stress reduction techniques getting massive growth in the last 20 years in the Western world. And I think the reason why this is because people have realized that in order for self-growth and in order for mental health treatment, patients, clients, individuals need to be in tune with where their emotions are, how they feel in their bodies, what their minds are doing, and understand and have a path forward for self-development, self-growth. One of the most important attributes of that is self-regulation. Okay, the ability to recognize when your emotions are going haywire and understand how you can get back to zero, how you can ground yourself, how you can be a strong, stable individual, move forward towards your goals, and allow people to see and feel that energy of you moving forward. I think that really defines a leader, that really defines a strong person, and I think that's what everybody should be striving for. Now, of course, no one can be perfect, but I think that everybody should be moving towards that ideal. And mindfulness really trains people to do that. It trains people to be very self-aware, which is such an important skill. What Michael DeCare would say is that it doesn't matter whether you are getting medicine for depression or anxiety or you're doing therapy for those. Self-awareness has an important attribute to all of that. It's a complete augmentation of anything that you're going to be doing in mental health or self-development. So this mindfulness practice is really augmenting anything that you're going to do in this area of improving yourself. And I will say, despite the perceived popularity of these techniques in mindfulness and yoga and meditation, I can't count the number of clients and patients that have come to me that are not even within that first step, that don't have that understanding of or self-awareness of where they're at. And I think that that's very much true for the general population. So if you are practicing this type of thing regularly and getting in touch and being mindful of your inner world and mindful of the external world and how that affects your inner world and gets you off balance, you are already ahead of the game. That is such a powerful thing. And again, if you're engaging in this type of self-awareness, you're definitely on the path forward to very much self-improvement. And one more thing, as I'm on a bit of a rant here, it's really unfortunate how many physicians, even mental health professionals, that don't practice mindfulness and meditation on a daily basis. They understand the concepts, but they don't practice regularly. What you want to do is find a guide that is really in tune with that so they can teach it to you, because it is so important. I can't tell you the number of practitioners that I've seen that just prescribe medications and don't talk to people about their inner experience, inner world, and help develop that understanding so that they can improve in the long-term basis. It's very important. So diving into why I think Muse is so effective for beginners is that it has several metrics that Muse has nicely tracked out in this Venn diagram that I think helps people get more into meditation. I know when I was starting meditation, I didn't know if I was doing it right, and I was just staring at a wall and not really like feeling anything and just trying to power through it. And I needed a framework, I needed a guide, and Muse wasn't out at the time, and I wish it was. But now I think that people using Muse can get better into the meditative habit and break through that surface level to where they actually love meditation, and I think that's so important. Part of that is the gamification, so it's fun. You get scores at the end, so it's engaging, it's fun. You're in this landscape, and it's this cool technology. So I think that it's very engaging for people, and people that actually like see the device, from my experience, get really excited about it, and that's so cool to see them get excited about the technology and in turn get excited about meditation. And then there's the tracking aspect. So there's an accountability to it, especially if you're using Muse Connect with the provider. You know that they're getting your scores, they're getting your data, and that you're going to have to talk to them within a week or two. So there's an accountability there, kind of like a personal trainer at a gym. So that's motivating to do the sessions, to keep up with the accountability, the frequency, and establish that habit, that practice, that meditation practice. And the final part of it is the neurofeedback. So you know that data is being collected. So I feel like beginners have more of a control over it, or at least they know that they're getting tuned up and that they're not doing it wrong all the time and not making any progress. I think that all these factors come into the confidence of meditating on a regular basis, and Muse, I think, is like a great tool in order to do that, especially with someone guiding you along the way. So a big part of this meditative process is this idea of anchors and loops. So you're using your breath as an anchor to pull you into attention, which is bringing you deeper and deeper into the meditative state. But when you get distracted, you have to bring back your attention, and that's the attentional loop. The problem is when you're not using the Muse and you get distracted, maybe you're thinking about something that happened in the past or things that you have to do that day, you can get on these thought spirals that take you away from the meditation that last several seconds before you realize, oh my gosh, I've been thinking about my chores that I have to do today. I need to get back to the meditation. The idea is that using the Muse, the landscape audio feedback changes before you would have noticed before. So you get more of a direct feedback and bring your attention back to the breath quicker than if you had not had that audio feedback. And throughout the session, you're going to have more of those attention loops, which further solidifies those connections in your brain that make it more easy for you to get deeper into a meditative state and have better sessions as you go along. And this next page touches on exactly what I was just talking about, is that providers that are prescribing the Muse to their patients should be using Muse themselves. And this is for several reasons. First of all, they should be familiar with the technology, and they should be familiar with how it can enhance a meditative practice so that they can guide the clients through using the Muse. But also, Muse can help facilitate their own meditative practice. And physician burnout is a very real thing. It has to do with, seeing a lot of patients under time constraints and hospital expectations. And these things sort of overload providers to the point where they feel like they don't have the emotional reserves to deal with clients. And an important part of that is taking care of themselves or yourself if you are a provider. And the meditative practice can help facilitate that by keeping you in touch with how you're feeling, making you realize when you need to take a break, go do some exercise or more meditation, or maybe even getting stuck in circling thought processes. So all these factors go into using the Muse and taking care of yourself and preventing burnout so that you can help your clients. And if you're a client, you want to make sure that your provider is actually using the device when you go to them for assistance. This next page touches on a concern that I think some people have is, who really benefits the most from the Muse? Is it people that are just starting out with meditation, people that have been meditating for 5 years, or people that have been meditating for 20 years and are Buddhist monks or expert meditators? Who really benefits from this technology? And I can tell you in my experience, I think that pretty much anyone can get benefit out of using this technology. I think that beginners get a great introduction to meditation and gain some confidence. In the next page, we'll talk more about that. But even intermediate and advanced meditators, I think that it has something to teach. And I know that I would consider myself an intermediate meditator. And it's interesting, I'll meditate with and without the Muse. And I'll notice that when I use the Muse, it's telling me that I'm actually probably getting distracted more often during my sessions without the Muse than I realize. My mind is probably going off and thinking about other things rather than getting deeper into the meditative trance than I think I am. And the Muse often redirects me back because, it starts getting chaotic and I realize, hey, my mind just wandered. I got to focus on the breath again. And I have noticed myself to get into deeper trances because I'm focusing more on the breath, sort of self-hypnotizing myself into the meditative state and then getting deeper into that meditation. And it feels like amazing. The other thing too that this page talks about is, hey, you can play around with it. If you find the sound scheme or the birds distracting, you can turn the volume down or turn the volume completely off and just meditate and then get your score at the end. The other thing that I recommend for people, and I've talked about this in previous videos, is you can play around with the calibration. You can calibrate, then pause, then meditate and see if after you do that, you can get your brain wave scores even lower and get better scores. And so you can play around with the audio, the calibration, anything just for more learning. And this is really what that's about, is just being flexible with that. And I really take my clients through different echelons of that, trying to start basic, but then taking up to higher levels and exploring so that you can learn more about your brain, your body, and mindfulness all rolled up into one experience or multiple experiences with the Muse. So this next page is trying to demystify the data a little bit. Muse is an electroencephalography device, or EEG, and any EEG device measures voltage changes from the brain. When the brain fires, it creates voltage changes, and different ratios of frequencies of those voltage changes reflect different subjective states. Traditional EEG broke those voltage changes, those complex EEG signals, into different frequency bands: delta, theta, alpha, beta, gamma. And neurofeedback practitioners would have people, or design programs to have people reach certain frequencies of brain waves to get good attention or be relaxed, and use that for treatments for anxiety or ADHD. And I have tons of videos talking about this. Probably one of the more interesting ones is the Graham Moffat interview, in which we talk about, hey, there was traditional neurofeedback where they broke it down in individual brainwave frequencies, but Muse actually took the complex EEG signal, applied some machine learning to it, and created their algorithms from what you call higher order combinations of primary, secondary, and tertiary characteristics of the raw EEG signal. So it's a really interesting device, both in hardware and software, and this page touches on that a little bit, but I would recommend taking a look at my interview with Graham Moffat for a little bit more of a in-depth conversation about it. This page touches on the calibration a little bit, warming people up for the idea that every time that you do a session, you do need to calibrate. And that's because our brains are going to be at different levels of activity throughout the day, between different days. And in order to get good baseline data, it needs to calibrate so that it can take you on your meditation journey for that day. And it also touches on the fact that you need to make sure that you're not moving your eyes around or clenching your jaw, because that will actually produce electrical activity from the muscle contractions within those organs. I had someone someone that didn't like the Muse, and I asked why, and they said, well, it doesn't work with TM. And it turned out that they were actually, using a mantra going like during their session, and moving their jaw around it. It was messing up the signals. So I had to let them know that you can't use a mantra, or at least a audible out loud mantra during the session, or it's going to mess up the data. You can play around with using an internal mantra in your mind to help you focus on the breath, but outwards audible expression through TM meditation is not going to work with this device. So this page talks about learning from the data. So as you see, it kind of breaks it down into a pretty simple, understandable, different 3 tiers of attention loops that people can take away from, that people can learn from. And obviously the active is these spikes in the graph where you have wandering attention. So that's where you're not focused on the breath. You're not in the meditative state. You're thinking about your past, future, trials, tribulations. This is wandering attention, and it's not good. So what you want to do is bring it back down to the calm, where it's in the deep blue, where you have that calm, relaxed attention on your breath, and you're deeper into the meditative state. And the program is taking a look at your brain waves and analyzing them through the software to compare them to expert meditators and guiding you through the audio feedback to get to that state. And neutral is somewhere in between that. You're not distracted, but you're also not really, entrancing or hypnotizing yourself down into that deep meditative state. And obviously the data is going to give you a feedback of the percentages, amount of time that you were within each. And there's going to be different things that you can pull from this data. And Michael DeCare talks a lot about this in our interview. And I think that he actually helped create this document from his experience. But as you see those little orange circles there, those are recoveries. So those are the attention loops where you see that someone had their mind wandering, but then they brought it back down to the neutral state. And that's the attention loop. That's redirecting the attention. That's further solidifying these attention brain circuits that allow you to meditate better, deeper, and more fulfilling as you progress in your meditation practice. This next page talks about the birds. So if you have a prolonged time of relaxed attention on the breath, 5 seconds, you'll start hearing birds. But the funny thing about the birds, and I get this all the time from my clients, they say, hey, it's fun to get the birds, but they're actually like distracting when they come in, it messes up my meditation session. And I kind of laugh because the birds are actually supposed to be a bit of a distraction. It's actually challenging you not to get too excited or distracted when the birds come, and remain focused on the breath, because, it'd be nice to have an environment where everything's calm and serene and it's not messing with you. But hey, everyday life is unpredictable. You're going to have distractions. And I think that with that being said, the birds actually serve as like a training mechanism in order to allow you to have better mindfulness during the day when you're going to have distractions in the real world. It's actually also a fun gamification part of it too, where the birds come and you kind of challenge yourself not to get too excited and keep them around. So again, that makes it fun and engaging, and really for beginners allows people to get more interested in meditation itself and like the power and the mystery of the brain. So this page is breaking down the point scheme of how they give you your score at the end. You get 1 point for every second that you're in the neutral state, and 3 points for if you're in the calm state. And then you get recovery points of what I talked about before, where you're redirecting your attention from those attention loops and building those great brain pathways for meditation. So a big part of this is obviously building the positive habit of meditation. And I think the app has a cool schema of this. They've created different challenges, like getting 2,000 points, doing 4 sessions over 2 days. And it actually like notifies you as you reach these milestones. And I think that that's a fun part of the gamification of this whole thing, is that, you can challenge yourself to reach these milestones, but at the same time, not getting too stressed out about if you get distracted by life and can't do it every day. But you should be, trying your best to progress. And again, it's not doing any good if you're getting stressed out about it. So, having that proper balance between challenging yourself and not getting too down on yourself if you're not able to meet these milestones immediately. Committing to a weekly practice, tracking your consistency. And like I said before, the app is doing a good job of notifying people when they get to that All right, so that's all I had for this part. This video is already getting too long, so I'm going to break it into 2 parts. The next part, I'm going to focus on the back half of this Practitioners Guidebook, which actually focuses more on the interaction between a provider and client. And I'm going to provide some insights on what I've seen so far in terms of being a provider and getting clients into using this technology, and what hurdles we've had to overcome, and different advice on how to manage that within a clinic setting. So thanks so much for listening to this first part of the review of the Muse Practitioners Guidebook. If you have questions, please send them to hello@techforpsych.com. And thanks so much for the listen. Talk to you again sometime soon.